with an update on a WWE star's contract status and more. This is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Speaking about his relationship with Vince McMahon, former WWE star Nunzio told Steve Fall of Ringside News, "To tell you the truth, getting back to the money part, which is good if you work there, you should make at least a decent amount. They're definitely doing better than I was, but I was happy at the time. I did have a bit of a relationship with Vince McMahon. It all started when we were doing programs with SmackDown. I was out there when it was Taker versus McMahon in a pole match. McMahon was going up the pole to try to get the wood, and I came in. I think the other way around. Taker was going up, and we were saving him. I worked in programs with Vince McMahon because he was in the same match, so we went over matches together. Not just me and him, but me, him, Chuck, Johnny, and everybody involved. When I broke into the cruiserweight, it was kind of just hello and goodbye, because the agents would come talk to you. I did programs with Hulk Hogan when he came back as the Masked Man, Mr. America." Revealing why she never ended up signing a contract with WWE, TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace told Mackenzie Mitchell, "I really truly think it's been about timing. There's been a few times when my contract has been coming up, and I've talked to WWE, and I kept staying at TNA because it's where I was comfortable, and I didn't know how WWE was going to treat me. So it's just kind of crazy to me that it wasn't the time then, but it's the time now, and now I get the best of both worlds. Everything works out exactly the way it's supposed to." Bringing up the fact that he is open to those from TNA Wrestling challenging him, NXT champion Trick Williams said this on the Masked Man show. "All challengers are welcome. I can say that I consider it an honor that we built up a brand enough and that we've built up the title enough that there are people who want to go get it. Anybody who wants it, come get it. The door is open. Now that we're doing it, let's do it." Touching on Dax Harwood responding to accusations on social media, Ringside News wrote that last year Dax Harwood was met with a lot of negativity online as haters wanted him to lose his job. This ended up affecting Dax Harwood's mental health in a big way, and the hatred he gets hasn't really stopped much. A fan took to Twitter and uploaded an old tweet about Dax Harwood where he stated that he pays artist merchandise out of his own pocket. This was a positive tweet, but another fan responded with a screenshot of an artist who claimed that Harwood blocked him because he was an artist whom Dax Harwood didn't take care of. Dax Harwood saw this particular tweet and was clearly infuriated by it as he took to Twitter and vented his frustration about the accusation. Harwood made it clear he always paid artists out of his own pocket no matter what. He further added that he had no idea who the particular artist was, but likely blocked him for a good reason. I shouldn't respond to this because I'm sure so many people will comment about how mean I am and what a terrible human I am, but this really bothers me. I've paid multiple artists out of my pocket to have designs for FTR merch. The artists are pretty available on all social media to ask and find out. I know firsthand how it feels to be a struggling artist, worrying about how you're going to pay your next bill. I did it for a decade. Paying artists for their time and their efforts is a way I can hope to give them a little peace of mind while also highlighting their incredible artwork work. I have no idea who this original Twitter account is or what he's talking about. If I blocked him, it's because he said something offensive about me. To the account who quote tweeted it, no clue who he or she is or why they would want to spread these lies about me, but it's completely unfair and untrue. You can call me a whiner, a complainer, a fat slob, boring, etc., but attacking my integrity as a human who's trying to help people in the same situation I was in just a few years ago is wrong. Anyway, I'm getting back off of Twitter. With him having to undergo surgery to repair a torn meniscus, Seth Rollins can be seen working out in this clip. Speaking about the working relationship between WWE and TNA Wrestling, former TNA star Deonna Purrazzo said this to Dexerto. WWE working with anyone, it kind of blows everyone's minds. I don't think anyone had that on their bingo card for them to cultivate their relationship with TNA. There are so many people there. My husband, of course, Jordynne Grace. To see them get that opportunity is amazing. If this flourishes and there's more opportunity for not just Jordynne Grace, but for anyone on the roster, that could be really special. It's going to put more eyes on the product. Revealing his plan if he was not able to return to in-ring action, Randy Orton told Sportskeeda, I would have been involved in some way, shape, or form with the WWE. I think I might be wrong, but I might be the only guy that's only ever wrestled for one company his entire career. I could be wrong. So I don't see any reason why I gotta leave. I see being a part of the WWE family from here on out. And if I wouldn't have been able to go back to wrestling, I would have been a coach, trained, done something, maybe an on-the-road producer. Talking about his involvement in the Who Killed WCW docuseries, former WCW president Eric Bischoff said this on an episode of Wise Choices. I'll be honest with you, when I first got the phone call, I was hesitant to do it, to get involved in another analysis of WCW, because just about everybody, not just about everybody that's approached it from a television point of view thus far, has pretty much tried to tell the same story, and they're living off of the dirt sheet narrative, second, third-hand information. Just a lot of kind of folklore more than anything. Guy Evans came along, wrote a great book about WCW, and I think the producers of $7 saw that book and said, wait a minute, there's more story to tell. Mentioning what led to him signing with All Elite Wrestling, Christian Cage said this to Chris Van Vliet on Insight. It was that day, it was a Wednesday. They were doing TV that day. When their show was on, I got a text from Tony saying, hey, how are you? I said, I'm great, how are you? He said, should we talk? I said, I think we should. So he called me the next day and we talked on the phone for almost 3 hours. Halfway through that call, I knew that AEW was the place for me. So that's basically how it all came to fruition, was through that one phone call, and then we talked one other time later in the week, and that was it. Explaining how the movie Nacho Libre inspired him, Rey Mysterio told the Jackson podcast, what a great movie. The movie was based on a real priest. There was a priest in Mexico. Nacho Libre was Jack Black was awesome. That whole movie was based on a real character, a true story. There was a priest in Mexico, Fray Tormenta. That story was based on him. Obviously, they threw in the comedy. He has a church, he would help kids, and at night he would go wrestle. Reflecting on his time as AEW World Champion, Samoa Joe said this too busted open radio. I mean, obviously, it's always a tremendous honor whenever you're carrying the Heavyweight Championship or the World Championship, and I took it as such, Joe said about being AEW World Champion. Anytime that I've been given the opportunity to step into that role, I try to go out there and give it our best shot and get people to tune in and see what we're doing. So yeah, that's about as much as I can say about it. It was a good time, and I look forward to getting back there sooner than later. Addressing her recent ACL injury as she prepares for NXT Battleground, Ruca told WWE Deutschland, "The injury is definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to go through thus far, just within my athletic career and my career here. I thankfully survived college without any injuries, anything major, but having my physical ability taken away from me really was a huge thing for me, but it also gave me the opportunity to take a step back and to really just watch and learn, and I'm a very visual person. So I think I learned a lot from just watching people and seeing how the fans reacted to certain things, how they didn't react to certain things, and how just picking apart other people's movesets and be like, oh, I really like that. I wonder how I can make that different. Stuff like that just really gave me the time to focus on just one thing, and that's returning and how I want to be perceived instead of trying to do that on top of still being active. So now that I am on the other end of an injury, I have kind of tweaked it, training regimen, a little bit because I honestly think I was pushing myself a little bit too far, and I want to be a little bit smarter with how I treat my body, especially with wrestling ramping up. So now I am in the gym on my own 3 to 4 times a week. I do legs twice a week. I do more hypertrophy stuff instead of powerlifting, which I used to do powerlifting before I got hurt. So I've kind of cut that out. We're just a little bit less than as crazy as what I was doing before. I like to do yoga a lot. I do runs here and there. It's kind of up to how I feel with my body. I try not to have a strict schedule because I used to do that, and with our schedule here at the Performance Center and with wrestling, it's really hard to stick on a schedule without having your physical well-being fall to the wayside. So I'm trying to take that into account and taking that as serious as possible and just kind of taking it day by day, feeling how I feel and doing whatever I think my body needs. And I also try and do a lot of single leg stuff because my injured leg is still a little bit weaker than the other one, but I just want to make sure it's at tip-top shape for as long as possible. Responding to the belief that New Japan Pro Wrestling has been disrespected by AEW, CEO of Bushiroad, which owns New Japan, Takaki Kidane, said this during a media briefing. "We have a very positive relationship with AEW right now, and there is room for it to evolve further. There are things we can't talk about just yet, but I think it's something that can involve other departments within Bushiroad as well. I think that this relationship has settled into something that's a lot more stable in the long run, and a lot of that comes from Tony Khan having a deep fandom and appreciation for NJPW. He has a lot of passion for 90s guys like Hiroshi Hase and the Steiners. He's a fan, and both he and his father have an incredible business acumen. Tony Khan's father started out making Toyota bumpers and grew his business eightfold in a 10-year span, and the Khans have had all this success not just in wrestling but American football and the Premier League. With that acumen and their affinity for Japan, there's a lot that can be done in the future, and I don't think NJPW could ask for a better partner right now. Having said that, there is the perception that NJPW is treated as a sub-brand or is looked down on by AEW. Some of that perception of NJPW being behind comes from the economics at the moment. But the truth of the matter is AEW strengths and NJPW strengths are different. From development of talent from scratch to a historical and traditional perspective, there's a lot NJPW can offer that AEW cannot. So there's a lot that we can do together, and while much of it isn't something we can discuss right now, there's a lot we will do. But the idea that NJPW is the inferior partner is not correct. We are absolutely on an even footing, and that's something we'll prove in the near future. Going over the contract status of a WWE star, Ringside News noted that as Dijak's WWE contract inches closer to its expiration, negotiations have commenced between the talented wrestler and the company. According to insights from Fightful Select's Corey Brennan, Dijak is being represented by Paragon Talent Group, co-founded by Dean Mojo Mutati and Stephen Kaye, in discussions with WWE. While initial talks have shown promise, no formal offer has been extended as of yet. Outside of WWE, there's significant interest in Dijak's talents, both within and beyond the wrestling industry. Despite this, there have been no immediate creative plans for Dijak on Raw, as evidenced by his absence from the recent June 3rd episode. While he has made sporadic appearances on shows like Main Event, including a match against Pete Dunne, his trajectory on the main roster remains uncertain. Those familiar with Dijak's work praise his professionalism and willingness to mentor younger talent during his tenure in NXT. Despite limited television exposure, Dijak's active presence on social media hasn't gone unnoticed by WWE, indicating a potential desire from the company to retain him. With Dijak's WWE contract set to expire at the end of June, the coming weeks will likely see intensified negotiations and speculation surrounding his future in the wrestling world. When it comes to an accusation leveled at WWE in regards to AEW, Ringside News wrote that the influence wielded by WWE over wrestling media has raised eyebrows among fans, sparking concerns about the manipulation of information to shape narratives. A recent incident involving the misrepresentation of viewership figures for AEW Collision on June 1st exemplifies this trend. Initially reported by Alfred Kanua, the viewership for AEW Collision was purportedly a mere 122,000. However, it later emerged that the actual viewership stood at a significantly higher 378,000. Despite the correction, the misinformation had already fueled extensive online discussions. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer shed light on the source of the erroneous figures, attributing them to WWE. Contrary to notions that WWE remained indifferent to AEW or that the rivalry is one-sided, Meltzer emphasized the existence of a pro wrestling war between the two entities. He underscored the intensity of this conflict, which extends beyond the squared circle to encompass public relations battles and media manipulation. This was a number supplied by WWE, and for those who think like WWE is not concerned about AEW or it's a one-sided thing, AEW is in a war with WWE. It's a pro wrestling war, okay? These pro wrestling wars are insidious. They are brutal. They are both in a public relations war where one side is far more effective as far as getting news out there and controlling the media because they are afraid of not having access or whatever they are afraid of. WWE, obviously, whenever AEW is a badly rated show, WWE makes sure that the fast nationals get out. Meltzer's insights paint a picture of a nuanced and strategic competition between AEW and WWE, with both vying for dominance not only in the ring but also in the realm of public perception and media coverage. While figures like Mark Henry have previously downplayed the notion of a war between WWE and AEW, the ongoing tactics employed by WWE against its competitor suggest otherwise. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.